This video is brought to you by Tab for a Cause. Install the extension and raise money for Ukraine just by opening tabs. Very few politicians get a second shot at the top job, let alone a second shot after surviving a cancer diagnosis and conviction for corruption and money laundering. Yet Brazil's former president, Luiz Inácio Luiz da Silva, known more affectionately as just Lula, is going for it. And not just that, he might win. Emphasis on the might though. Having finally launched his bid for the Brazilian presidency last Saturday, he's already made a couple of blunders in just a few days. So in this video we'll explain why the 76-year-old is running again, and why he might just have a shot at the presidency, and exactly how he's messed up. To properly explain Lula's entry into the race, we first need to explain a bit about his history in Brazilian politics. Lula was an incredibly popular president whilst in office, elected for 2 consecutive terms between 2003 and 2010. He left office with a staggeringly high approval rating. According to a survey in December 2010, Lula's government had the approval of 80% of respondents, with Lula himself having a personal approval rating of 87%. To leave office in any country with those approval ratings, let alone a country as divided as Brazil, is basically a miracle. At one point, Barack Obama called Lula the most popular politician on earth. Lula and his government managed to garner such a groundswell of support through the policies they enacted. Lula is widely credited for lifting millions of Brazilians out of poverty through the family allowance, known as the Bolsa Familia, as well as more broadly increasing Brazil's standing on the international stage. So we have an experienced ex-president with dizzyingly high levels of support running again. He's bound to win, right? Well, no. While Lula did leave office with huge support in 2017 as he was preparing to run for the presidency once again, his entire world came crashing down. As part of a federal investigation into money laundering, known as Operation Car Wash, Lula was convicted for both corruption and money laundering charges. According to the presiding judge at the time, Lula had personally accepted bribes from an engineering company in the form of a beachfront apartment, in exchange for government contracts. And thus Lula was sentenced to 9.5 years in prison, revised up to 12 years and 1 month on appeal. Having been sentenced, Lula was banned from running in the 2018 presidential election against Jair Bolsonaro due to Brazil's clean slate law, which prevents those convicted of corruption from standing in elections. This all begs the question, how is he running now? Well, in March 2021, a Supreme Court judge ruled that the court that had tried Lula did not have the appropriate jurisdiction, and thus quashed his conviction. Lula was released from prison and, to all intents and purposes, deemed to have never been convicted, giving him a clean shot at the presidency this time round, which he's taken up with both hands. Speaking at a rally in Sao Paulo, Lula announced the launch of what he described as a cross-party anti-Bolsonaro alliance, titled Vamos Juntos pelos Brasil, roughly translated into English as Let's Pull Together for Brazil. Lula declared that he is certain that we are going to manage to stage the greatest peaceful revolution the world has ever seen, and that we have a dream. We are moved by hope, and there is no force greater than the hope of people who know they can be happy once more. In an apparent bid to appeal to the centre ground of Brazilian politicians, Lula named centrist Alckmin as his running mate, the former governor of Sao Paulo. Current polling puts Lula on a good step to beat Bolsonaro, the incumbent. One survey released just before Lula's confirmation that he would run gave him a 13% lead in the first round and 20% lead in the second round runoff against Bolsonaro. Many Brazilians blame Bolsonaro for a catastrophically botched response to COVID, which led to the deaths of some 660,000 people. Though that's not to say Lula is universally loved. His opponents continue to lay blame for rampant corruption throughout the country at Lula's feet, and whilst his conviction was ultimately quashed, the wider anti-corruption operation targeted at the time when Lula was president culminated in 295 arrests, 278 convictions, and the seizure of some 4.3 billion real, equivalent to about $800 million. The bigger problem, however, is that he's not exactly playing the safe route when it comes to the campaign. A week before the announcement, Lula was forced to apologise after seeming to suggest that police officers were not human beings. Then he was publicly criticised for claiming that Zelensky was equally to blame for the war in Ukraine as Vladimir Putin. In an interview with Time magazine, the former president said that, "I see the president of Ukraine, speaking on television, being applauded, getting a standing ovation by all the parliaments. This guy is as responsible as Putin for the war. Because in the war, there's not just one guilty person." When asked by the Time interviewer whether he could really say that to Zelensky as he didn't want a war, it came to him, Lula responded, "He did want a war. If he didn't want a war, he would have negotiated a little more. That's it." Lula then upset a significant proportion of the religious community after calling for the legalization of abortion. For context, Brazil remains a predominantly Catholic country, with fewer than a third Brazilians supporting completely free access to abortions. And then there's the issue of a lack of a plan to take Brazil forward. Whilst it's still early days, the election is on the 22nd of October with official campaigning beginning in August, he hasn't offered any semblance of a vision. In fact, in the same interview with Time magazine where he blamed Zelensky, Lula went as far as to say, "Instead of asking what I will do, just look at what I have done." In the launch speech, Lula talked in general terms, committing to protecting Brazil's sovereignty and environment, for our sovereignty and our democracy have been consistently attacked by the irresponsible and criminal policy of the current government. They threaten, dismantle, scrap, put up for sale our most strategic companies, our oil, our public banks, our environment. Fortunately for Lula though, if current polling is anything to go by, it doesn't look like he'll need a detailed policy platform to beat Bolsonaro. He's popular, Bolsonaro isn't, and that should be enough to win the next election, assuming he doesn't make too many more blunders.
It's easy to find everything around the world a little overwhelming right now, but there is one small thing you can do to help. You can donate money to causes that you care about without spending a penny. Yep, really. That's because Tab for a Cause is the sponsor of today's video, and they allow you to donate money just by using your browser. They support charities like Save the Children, who have been working to provide life-saving interventions in Ukraine since 2014, working to provide the most basic needs to vulnerable families, as well as providing psychological support and increasing awareness of the hazards of war. So, what can you do to help? Well, if you head to tabforacause.org/Ukraine, you can add an extension to your browser which raises money to help the people of Ukraine every time you open a new tab. Yeah, it really is that simple, and you can even track the impact you've made personally. And you don't need to worry, they're not doing anything scary, they're just putting a couple of ads in the corner of your new tab page, and the money raised from advertisers goes straight towards the cause. Smart, right? Well, as I said, you can easily support the people of Ukraine and help contribute to the $1.3 million raised so far by heading to tabforacause.org/Ukraine. Thanks for your support.